This is a screen capture of a truly extraordinary soul living on the planet right now called Kevin Annett, who has made a video on a debate that didn't take place. He was invited to a debate with a Vatican official. It didn't take place, and he's reading what it is that he was going to address in this conversation debate with one of the reptiles that is representatives of one of the worst ever in the history of humanity, called the Vatican. And it's an extraordinary human being. You can see how it has worn him down. I mean, anyone that has eyeballs in their head can see how this person has suffered because he's spoken his conscience, something I hold very high. My esteem rises, is alerted to people that express their conscience, and this is a person, an extraordinary person, I believe, who has spoken out against the destruction perpetrated by one of these institutions. There are quite a number of them, but this one is quite high in the scheme of things, and I'm going to just capture this person's reflections on what I have started in my last video, that I'm going to articulate what I believe to be, what I understand to be, what is inner world. This is something that is invoked, as Kevin Annett will invoke the inner world in his talk. I will attach a link at the bottom, but let me just start by running this short segment. I will attach the entire video, the entire YouTube link. You can catch it on the bottom. I think it's really important to listen to what he has to say, but I will just use this as a preamble to my continuation, part 2 of what is inner world. Let's have a listen.
Jesus founded a community of called out people, a remnant not of this world, a congregation, not a church. Nowhere did Jesus speak of popes, of bishops, of rituals and ceremonies by which someone would mediate him and God to others. He said that the kingdom of heaven lay inside each of us, not outside in a communion wafer or a religious ritual. That inner kingdom of Christ alone is the guide of all true Christians, who must come out from and be separate from all these vile, false and violent churches that deny God in practice and kill children in practice. And that's the task of any deluded soul still caught in the fatal grip of Rome and its blasphemous illusions and depravities. As America's founding fathers said, we hold this truth to be self-evident. And one of those men, the second U.S. President, John Adams, said, quote, "A free government and the Roman Catholic religion can never exist together in any nation or country. Liberty and popery are opposed."
I think you get the idea. What he's invoking, what he is referring to, is that the attempt by these institutions like the Vatican, governments, despots, is to externalize existence, to draw us away from the inner world. So I will go to a video now. I will pause this and reappear as a video, and I will attach this link, as I said, below my video. My heart goes out to people like Kevin Annett, to Kevin Annett specifically, and people like Kevin Annett, who have the courage to speak out on behalf of the vulnerable, other people who have the courage to speak out. And it's a very fitting screen capture of a small segment of, I recommend you listen to what Kevin Annett has to say in this video. He's going through a litany of accusations against an incredibly corrupt organization that is walking among us like a sheep. Meh. Well, we're the sheep, but they're like the wolf in the sheep clothing. And his indisputable accusations on this organization, the facts are out there, but they don't matter. You see, this is a very fitting introduction to this part 2 of Inner World, part 2 of inner world. What is inner world? And why don't the facts matter? When you listen to people like Kevin Annett talking about the corruption, the criminal activities by an organization that is hiding behind dresses and fancy hats, cute little outfits with colors that represent other than what we think they are. The world is not what it appears to be. And the facts are out there. You've just heard it from a person. If you listen to this video, you've heard it from a person that has had contact with the people that have suffered the atrocities committed by church and state in Canada, the Native community. So my shout goes out to Kevin Annett and people like him. And I'm going to lead now into the idea what my last video of Inner World, what is it that I'm communicating to people that are interested for themselves, not in terms of the greater extended epic picture of humanity and what it means to be alive in existence. Yeah, that can be a great topic, but I'm thinking about what it means to each individual, each person. When you raise this phrase of the inner world, what does it mean? And why don't facts matter? And now I will say why facts don't matter. And people that are giving us the noose every day with the facts and feel frustrated, rightfully too. I feel extremely frustrated that something like what Kevin Annett is talking about is not dealt with, that a person deals with this within themselves. People, good people going to church every Sunday, listening to these sissies in dresses as they go into the dark rooms and abuse the children. This is proven. This is not something anybody is making up. These people are let off the hook. No one has been prosecuted and sent to jail. Practically, I think there's virtually no one. Relative to the numbers, relative to the number of offenses, it is pathetic what kind of a determination there is in the public conscience to actually go after these perpetrators, these criminals abusing innocent lives. In the same way, people who understand that this event called the nuclear disaster at Fukushima has occurred, but obviously all the facts placed in front of us don't seem to matter. And why not? And why people continue to be so frustrated and flying off at the handle. And in fact, in some ways, contributing to the myopia, to the fact that we cannot change anything out there, what I say, until we have a personal revolution within. The idea of the inner world. I'm going to address this now a little more. I want to talk about this because I find this to be so obvious in the way we conduct our lives personally, why the facts don't matter. Obviously, you can go into a long explanation about dogma and belief and all the things that we attach ourselves to. We have no proof for ourselves, but we accept because it's convenient for some reason, because we don't want to upset the apple cart. We don't want to be out there perceived as shit disturbers because other people who don't want to be disturbed are going to be offended and upset with you for upsetting them. But I delight in the upset of others, not in the suffering or pain like the psychopaths. This is their intent, to create suffering in innocent victims. The fear they have is not to have a victim. The control groups that filters down right to the lowliest of lowly perpetrator, like a policeman who delights in persecuting someone because he's capable of doing it. He has the law on his side. There are even lower echelons. I'm talking about organized institutions like law enforcement, hiring people who delight in the misfortune of others. This is what I'm saying. And the sole purpose of their existence is to get the satisfaction within themselves of having been able to create some kind of pain or suffering, and even murder, even to the point of that. So institutions exist, and they exist four people who basically have filtered through this pyramid, starting with the main culprit that I always relate to as the Akhenaten character, who took it upon himself to be the liaison in the eyes of the public between the omnipotent being and us. And there you have it, the displacement of the inner world. This is where it starts. Why is it that facts don't matter? Because we have abdicated our responsibility to do the inner work. And the reason we do it is because it's convenient, I suppose, to have some sort of good-looking character, the Obama-type character, the Akhenaten character, whoever your leader might be, the Pope, to deflect away from our responsibility. This is why facts don't matter, because we've given up our responsibility. So now I'm going to just talk a little bit about what it means. What it means. I can't just stand here and invoke the concept of the inner world. What the hell does that mean anyway to somebody who has never actually ever dealt with any kind of experience, personal experience, where they would say, in a reflective way, this is something that has nothing to do with the outside world. You see, this is the starting point. This is how I look at this. This is the starting point. And I want to just briefly say something. I'm going to come back to about this symbol here. And it has been pointed out. I listened to somebody called Catherine Horton. She's been terribly afflicted. She, I believe, truly is a targeted person. They have picked on her to create the suffering in her life just because they can. There might have been some reason she went to a court case and she, I suppose she presented an opposition to the consensual story that was being propagated, and then, we're going to get you for it. But anyway, she made a comment about this five-sided star. And I have this on my hat, and you see there is a little man inside. And I think the five-sided star may very well come, possibly, I'm not sure, I haven't researched it in history, but it has a demonic dimension to it because, again, it has been hijacked. But in my case, the reason I like it is because it shows us contained in an energy. I find this to be quite fascinating, this symbol for myself. It shows me being contained in an energy, almost like, you know, that Da Vinci thing with the circle and the square, and it has, he put the man inside, and the man represents a kind of five-pointed thing, the head, the arms, the legs, a five-sided thing, and it represents that to me. And it's not necessarily a demonic representation, although it has been, again, it has been taken on by the degenerates, the worshippers, the Santa worshippers, the Satan worshippers, who use this, hijack this concept of an energy, and it could be anything else. It doesn't have to be this. I just put it on there. So people who are looking for, he's representing the Baphomet character and that thing. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Anyway. So here is the conundrum from the point of view. What I say. We can't just invoke concepts that have no meaning to anyone. The reason that facts don't matter is because people have decided, abdicated their responsibility to do the inner work. And what does that mean? Is not to be able to have a sense of self regardless of what might be going on outside. And how can we structure our own lives so that there is this confidence in being able to make a decision regardless of what anybody thinks or says? This is incredible courage when you think about it, that people like, let's say, Martin Luther pinning the Declaration on the church door. It took incredible courage to counter the dogma that was presented because he had done some version of this inner work, recognizing something that was totally original. I'm sure he was influenced. They're always influence on us. And the way I function in my day-to-day life, I create paintings that confirm and reinforce something that exists regardless of the world out there. This is the beauty. When you see children using a marker and doing something that comes out of them, other than having had a dump when they're 1 year old and they're fascinated with the dump that they've produced, it goes to the next level of enlightenment when they're actually making marks and are totally delighted and enjoy it immensely. Why do children enjoy? I remember enjoying immensely the idea of being able to use crayons and putting something on paper, and then obviously getting the approval from my teacher or my parents or somebody. This is all part of it. We encourage this in each other. But what I'm saying is, as a representation of the inner world, is the child, the essential nature in an individual is to produce something that has nothing to do with the exterior world. It comes from somewhere else. It's mysterious. And frankly, I don't know. I don't really know where my paintings come from. And after I've produced them, people come and have interpretations and understanding about what is going on. And I appreciate that, for people to point things out to me that I didn't necessarily see or understand. But this is all part of this inner world. I'm proceeding towards this concept, the fact that when we present, people love truth. Yeah, I go back to this. Truth is a really irritating aspect to reality because it's so manipulated. I prefer honesty. I've said this always, because within honesty, you're going to resolve whatever it is that may be an issue or a problem. Truth doesn't resolve anything because it's part of this factual-based reality that we're all attached to in like an obsessive way. We obsess continuously with the facts, with the real world around us. And I'm saying there is another world that actually has an influence, not only an influence, but creates the external world. And if our inner world absorbs everything that we are told, and we're going to believe whatever it is that we're told, we're going to end up exactly where we are. We live in the age of fission, and we're surrounded by a culture that is so degenerate, so destructive, so dysfunctional, what I call the culture of death, because we don't do the inner world. So what I'm saying is, each person needs to have this experience of something very original to them. And it honestly doesn't matter if somebody in Australia, if you're in Toronto or Chicago and somebody's in Melbourne, that you're having the same idea. The point is that it comes out of oneself. It comes out of oneself without having any kind of pollution from anything outside. And one of the nasty sides to this is we have impulses. Now, are these impulses based on an inner world? And I've noodled over this, and I believe there are aspects to us, and this is beautiful, this is elegant, this is why I feel conscience is so important within this discovery of self and the inner world, that we have impulses, and we all share these impulses that are not necessarily wholesome. We have wholesome impulses. We have somewhat depraved impulses, some people more than others. And even as a child, I remember going through periods where I had impulses that I realized were not wholesome, were not right, like creating suffering for another creature, a furry creature or a frog or whatever. This is something some children go through. Fortunately, not all of them, but I unfortunately had to go through this, which drew attention, which makes me so keenly aware of this inner world, because it wasn't something I was observing outside. It was something, an impulse that came from within, and I had to harness something here. I had to curtail a behavior which came through an inner decision. Now, some people can't ever do that because they're told, hey, you're doing something wrong. We're going to slap you. We're going to beat you up. We're going to throw you in jail. If this is the nature of our existence, that we have to be told and we have to be isolated in a cell because we're degenerates and we're crappy, well then just kiss it goodbye, jump off the edge. If that's how it works and we rely on somebody else to take care of us, it's not going to last. Our existence will be miserable the way it is right now. And then when I say miserable the way it is right now, we're facing monumental challenges. Because the bastards who delight in our misfortunes, who delight in our suffering, who have no interest in this inner world as it relates to a better world, are basically running away. They're carrying the ball down the field. And they're ecstatic how stupid we have become in the sense of not looking at ourselves and saying, this is wrong. That's simply the inner world. You can have an inner world experience by deciding something is wrong entirely on your own. And this is the day-to-day process. And in my case, I apply this rightness, wrongness to making a painting. It is informed. I allow myself to be informed by what I practice as an awareness. This something that has nothing to do with outside, that creates something that is external to me, but that comes from within me. And this is a challenge, a struggle that each person, even each person preoccupied with the facts and being frustrated with not having a result, look at your own life. How is your own life changing to create an ambiance beyond yourself, beyond your being, that is having an influence, that is making a difference, not making a person feel lousy? And I'm not talking about confrontation, that you confront people when they're doing something wrong. Yeah, you're going to make them feel lousy because you caught them at it. I'm saying that our own lives will actually be the change we're looking for. And this is how optimistic, hopeful I am in terms of like this monumental problem that we face. Fundamentally, I see Fukushima as the most epic disaster ever in the history of epicness of anything, to be continued down the road with all the other death plants. But this won't be fixed unless each of us individually has some experience that is related to this concept of inner world, which is thrown out there. But what does it mean? And I've just said something. Make a decision on something that is right. This is the beginning of understanding what it means to be an inner world. Why I always refer to conscience. And I've never really articulated this to this extent, to say, which is important to say, to give my own understanding a guideline of what it means, rather than just saying, oh yeah, act your conscience. It has to practically every day, it has to do with making those decisions that have nothing to do with the outside world, that comes from something that we feel to be perfectly wholesome and right to do it. And if we make a mistake, which happens, we'll correct it. That's all that means. But it comes out of a very original sense of self, which is the inner world. I think I'll end it here. And I'm going to go into a little more philosophical side to things, because I think we need to reinforce something within ourselves through our example, through our behavior, through our lifestyle. We reinforce it first of all to ourselves. It's to no one else. I'm not standing here doing what I do for you. I do it for me. But it has this ripple effect. I think people usually, as I've said before, without inspiration, there's no change. Inspiration can lead to this kind of personal recognition that there is something more to me than I've ever understood. And I want to know what that is. Before I die, I want to know what that is, or get a little closer to it. And there is no external world without the inner world functioning. When I say functioning, I mean things work out there. Rather, things are functioning out there, but they're not working. And the reason they're not working is, like I'm saying, this is very important to me, and I'm going to go into a philosophical side on this from the point of view of what it means to make a painting and how that is directly related to something, a larger concept, a cultural concept, a continuity of self within a larger context, culturally speaking, is also requires this inner work. Without it, there is no result. We end up with dogmas and spurious beliefs. People suggest certain things, and it becomes incorporated into our lives, and it makes no sense whatsoever. And like the explanations that are attached to all the things that make no sense cannot be distinguished unless we do what I say, this inner work, and then we'll have a result. We're going to fix this Fukushima problem and the chemtrailing and get rid of the bastards who delight in the misfortune of others. And that's all they're interested in. The money is an add-on. The money is a bonus. The money is not the objective. The power is not the objective, other than it makes them feel better about being, living their impulses, their deranged, degenerate impulses, these sissies in dresses, like Kevin Annett has pointed out. Anyway, I'll leave it there for now.